Hello, my name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this brand new series. This is a game called Judgment, and it is an apocalypse survival simulation. So it's kind of similar in some ways to RimWorld, whereby basically you have a colony of survivors. You are trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world. This isn't like many of the other games that I play, which are zombie-based, but is instead with demons, hence you got pentagrams and stuff like that appearing. So let's jump on in. We'll play on challenging. I did do a test game, and challenging seemed to be a pretty good difficulty for me. I won't show the tutorials because I've already done that, and we'll just hit start. So when you start the game, you begin with 3 characters, which can be renamed and everything like that. They have a number of different traits and also different classes. The classes basically determine what skills they prefer using. So for example, fighters obviously prefer fighting, occultists like doing dark research, and then survivalists, actually I'm not sure what survivalists do, I don't think I had one in my game. And then they also have traits. So for example here, Bobby the ex-cop has a better accuracy with pistols and also a general attack speed increase, but the farm yield is reduced. Kelly the occultist is an occultist, so occultist research speed and ritual speed is increased. She's a hippie, which increases farming speed, crafting speed, scavenging speed, but dramatically reduces chop speed and damage. But she can craft medicine. And she's an addict, which means her health is reduced, her energy is increased, melee damage is increased, crafting speed reduced, and farming speed, crafting speed. So basically the stuff from Addict is reducing that, but she does scavenge at 110% increased. And then May over here is a miner and a quarrying speed and max health. I'm going to re-roll that. I'm not particularly happy with that combination. 2 survivalists, so I want to mix it up a bit more. I'd quite like to have an engineer. So having at least 1 engineer and possibly 1 fighter. So here we go. Engineer and a fighter. You're an ex-cop, you're clever, which increases research speed, which is good, because that means that when you're not fighting, you have something to do. And you're also a believer, which increases your occult weapons accuracy, which is interesting. I wonder if you can have an occult pistol, if that would then be plus 40% accuracy. That'd be kind of interesting. Then we have a scientist, which is a 75% increase in research speed, which also boosts to this. That's 125% research speed increase. That is amazing. And she has additional health, so although you're an engineer, you will be researching an awful lot. And then we have a country person, priests, and I think priests do farming just normally anyway. Not quite as good in the front line fighting, but extra max health means that you'd make a pretty good tank actually. So yeah, I quite like this combination. So let's have a look at our Patreon list and get these people renamed appropriately. We have a new person. I'm going to call the fighter Shockin. Seems to be reasonable. And then the priest. We'll call the priest Jonas. That seems to be appropriate for that. And then whoever not used for a while. Blacko. I mean, technically you'd be Mrs. Blacko, but oh well, it's fine. We'll just call you Blacko. Cool. So you've got Jonas the priest, Blacko the engineer, and Shockin the fighter. Start. So basically the idea here is you start with a small area. Hell, I'll read it and that will kind of explain everything. While out camping, 4 of you were attacked by a single powerful creature. Together, you barely managed to take it down, but Ned didn't make it. All around, more red eyes told of awful things looming in the shadows. You grabbed your supplies and made your way back to town, only to find it overrun, burning under a red sky. The apocalypse has begun. The 3 of you make your way to a nearby hidden valley that you used to hike to. It seems safe. For now. You should set up camp, start with a shelter and a place to eat and rest. Build a log cabin with food table and a bed. Alright, so this is our home area. We will be building structures here, we will be cutting the wood, mining the stone, and all of that good stuff. Then we have a world map, which is here. You can send expeditions out on the world map to bring back resources. So while you can get stone and wood and that type of thing, it can sometimes be more efficient to harvest them from this. So for example, if we went over to this farm, it has some stone and some scraps, and it shows you what kind of enemies you would be facing to get those items. So a military base here with some arrows and not a particularly big defensive group, so that could be pretty effective. One of the things that I was running short of constantly in my test game was water, so having some water supplies nearby is another good thing. Then as we explore this also gets revealed. As you can see, it's actually a pretty darn big map, and it'll take us quite a long time to cover through that. So let's get started. We will begin with a log cabin. Now the first log cabin that we build is free. You can see that here it costs scraps and wood. Well, here it doesn't. You get a log cabin, a bed, a food table, and an experiment table for free. Everything else will cost you items. So let's put down a log cabin. We want to have it fairly close to the center. I'm kind of annoyed that there are that many stones there. So what I might do is rotate it and plonk it down here. And just generally have that, well, in the center as kind of a central location. So we'll have that being built, and we also need to assign some wood cutting. Now there is a way of doing this in bulk, but on the moment I just want those 3 done. The next thing that we need to do is have a look at the priorities. So kind of like RimWorld, you have a priority list of when everyone does stuff. The percentage increase to speeds are shown here at the bottom, and then anything with an arrow you gain additional experience because that is part of your class. So Shokin, for example, being the engineer, has a bonus to crafting. Shokin, being the fighter, has a bonus to training and patrolling. So when they are doing that, they get those skills. Blacko, being the engineer, gets a bonus to building, crafting, mining, etc, etc, etc. So there we go. It's actually kind of unfortunate that engineers do research. That's fine. So next up we want you building, and then crafting, then mining, then quarrying. So even though you're good at occult research, I don't really want you doing that right now. We'll probably leave that one there though. You are going to be our main farmer, then water hauler in case we need that, and then woodcutter, I would say. Actually, let's have quarrying ahead of mining for you. Then we bring this up to the front just because that is something that you gain experience from. So Jonas might be gaining experience fairly slowly, except I'm going to expect you to be doing a fair amount of farming, really. And then Shokin on the base map will not be generating much experience at all, but when we do expeditions, Shokin will definitely be our frontline man, and we will gain experience that way. So let's see, what will we want you to do? Crafting first, that seems okay. Rune research, then occult research. Let's have you doing occult research, because Blacko's got the normal research pretty well sorted. Then scavenging, yeah, that sounds good. Then woodcutting, mining, quarrying, mining. May stick water here. Alright, that seems fairly decent for now. We can go ahead and unpause the game, and the people go off and start doing their job. So you can see here that Blacko started building this. The slowly filling wheels here are their progress in doing that, and now we have our first log cabin. Right, we should probably stick some things in there. First thing we want is an experiment table, which we'll place here, and a food table, which we will place here, and then a bed, which we'll place here. Okay, so we have a couple of things queued up. The food table is required for preparing food. Obviously, you can get raw food, which are like vegetables and things like that, but you need to process them into salads in order to actually eat. Then later on, you unlock cooked foods like bread from wheat and other things from that point onwards. The experiment table is so that we can start getting some research. So Blacko should start doing some research, then one of the others will take over the building, which looks to be Shokin. Yeah, Shokin's now taking over the building so that Blacko can get the research done. It's actually a really good thing that Blacko is such a quick researcher, because it means that we will go through the tech tree very quickly. And this is the tech tree. It is already quite long. And wait, this is only one of 5 tabs. So you have the base building tab, which is basically the different buildings that you can build, going all the way down to advanced logistics down there. Craft, which are additional crafting abilities and also tools and things like that. Weaponry, pretty self-explanatory, it's different weapons that you can produce. Occult and then rituals use the occult research rather than the regular researchers those three use. Occult, honestly, I have not delved very far into these two. I did not have a particularly good occultist in my test game, so I have not been able to test this very much yet. Rituals, I think, give you general bonuses to your people, but take some time and some resources to get set up. And then occult, I think, is like magical upgrades and runes. So here, plus 7% damage. I think that just increases damage for everyone. Awareness generation, so awareness is another important factor. You can see here there's this kind of temperature gauge, which right now is just at 1%, but as you do missions, as you build up your home area, as you go into the world and basically attract attention to yourself, your awareness goes up, and that is the chance that your main base will get attacked by the demons. So even if you have people out on an expedition, your main base can get attacked, so you do need to keep people behind to make sure that they are able to defend for themselves. Learning to farm. You have a base of operations, but you are far from safe. Your supplies won't last forever. If you don't find a food and water source, you won't live long enough to worry about those creatures finding you before you can grow your own food. You need to learn how. And before we get into this a little further, my voice might sound weird, and that's because I am basically deaf right now. I went swimming while I was away, and water got into my ears and has not yet come out yet. I've done all the weird, like, stuff that you can do to get your ears cleared, and it just hasn't worked. So one of my ears is working fine, the other one is completely blocked. So I can't really hear myself talking. So if I'm sounding a bit weird, or if my volume or whatever is a bit off, then that is why. I'm sorry about that. I have weird ears and they are terrible. Right, so we need to build an experiment table, which we are doing, and then we can research farming, which is the first of the base things. Now, farming only costs 5 research. You can see there 7 of 5, so we can click on that. We are now farming. This has unlocked the vegetable farm. It will cost some stone, some wood, and some scraps to build. Let's stick you up here. So we can build one of you, but we cannot afford the next one because we need more wood, which we can assign, and also stone. So let's go ahead and set you two to be quarried, and then get some more trees ready for chopping as well. You figure out how to farm. Use this knowledge to build some farms. They will provide a steady source of food. Resources are running low, but there are plenty lying around in the area. You can chop trees for wood, quarry for stone or clay, or search debris for scraps. Build 2 vegetable farms. So the stone here is obviously for stone. Over here we have some clay, and then these old campsites, that's what scraps generate. And then you have minerals as well, which I think is metal working, but I have not actually got that far before. So I couldn't really tell you how mining works because I just haven't done it yet. We can see here how many food supplies we have. So these are the prepared foods, not the unprepared. So these are only the ones that they've had to go to the food preparation table to prepare. Then we have water supplies, which we can use the well to generate more of, but that is a fairly slow system, so we need to be relatively careful on how we use our water supplies. Plus crops, once they are planted, require water as well. Scraps, which are your basic building blocks, research there, occult research, and then you have a further breakdown of more resources here. So once we get, for example, apples from our vegetable garden, no, not apples, tomatoes from our vegetable garden, then they'll appear here, and then those tomatoes are then processed into salads, or wheat into bread, etc, etc, etc. The more different types of food that you have for your people, the more nutrition bonuses they get, so they heal faster over time, for example. The other thing we probably want to do is start producing some weaponry, which Shocken's going to do for us, producing clubs out of wood. Which I'm not sure I should have done just then, but never mind. Why are we not building this, guys? Who is our builder? That would be Blacko. Now you can click on a person, then right click on something you want them to do, and that will basically force them to go and do that task. So kind of in RimWorld, where people will get on with things automatically, you can force them to get on with something in particular if you want. Speed up time a bit. You have people going for their first meals. We have Shocken who's doing research now instead of Blacko, and this will be somewhat slower than when Blacko was doing it. But we need to get this built, so that's fine. The next thing that we will want are arrows, although we are probably going to want to spend some of our science on getting a composite bow. Although the other thing that would be very useful is patchwork, so we can get reinforced outfits. You know what, let's do that. And we're going to need some more... Oh, we're going to need a workshop. What's needed for a work... Oh, we can afford it already. Let's stick the workbench in here. And then that's that building full of stuff. So we will need to set up another building in a moment, which will probably require us to cut some more trees. So let's just do a group area allocation thing. And there we go. We've got that set up. Jonas is going to go over there and set up the food. And I'm going to have to go and shut my window because someone's cutting the lawn outside. Right, much better. What's up with you guys? Survivor is tired, Survivor is tired. Now only one person at a time can use the bed. Beds are actually really expensive and we will not be able to get more until much later on. So eventually their sleep cycles will kind of sort themselves out, but it will take a moment to get there. Now what are we waiting to do? Build 2 vegetable farms, right. We can build a second. Let's go and plonk you down over there then. Jonas, was it Jonas? I think it was, wasn't it? Blacko, my bad. Although actually either of them could do it because they both get experience from it. So, Jonas, you can go ahead and build that. Because Blacko's asleep. We'll let her sleep, that's fine. Blacko's doing research again, so much faster. Where are you going? Probably to get something to eat. Yep, and then back to work. Marvellous. And then once we have this second vegetable patch up and running, we should have enough food supplies for all of our people for the meantime. I think it's roughly 1 vegetable patch per 2 people, something like that, maybe 3 people. Not 100% sure. Let's speed things up a bit more, because we're just kind of getting the base set done. These farms should keep you fed for now, but when the colony grows you will need to build more farms. Remember, you can't eat raw food, you will need to constantly prepare meals. Keep an eye on your water supply too. Gather water from a nearby well when it starts to run low. Now that you have the basic supplies, you should prepare to defend yourselves. Make some weapons. These weapons should help defend your base from smaller groups of weaker demons, and not a moment too soon. You've been found. Get ready to defend your base. Okay, so this is a brief overview which allows you to equip your people before the fight, so you have a weapon, armor, and then a miscellaneous piece of equipment. We're going to hit approved. We're going to pause the game because we have an imp appearing up there. So that is one of the bad guys. We can then select our people down here, and this basically becomes a tactical combat area with different amounts of armor. So if we click on shocking, armor cover. So if we were standing here, for example, anyone trying to shoot us from any of these directions would have their accuracy reduced, though not by very much because the shield isn't very full up. And then there's also flanking, there's multiple people attacking one target, etc, etc, etc. So if we click on a person, we can see how accurate they would be in attacking the enemy. So we're just going to shift our people around a little bit in order to get some flank attacks going. And now their attacking bonus has increased because we're getting the flanks, and the imp should die pretty quickly. They are very weak. We get experience for the fight, we get some sulfur because there's a demon that we just killed, and then it says we killed 1 demon. Huzzah! That was close, but next time you may not be so lucky. In order to survive, you can't keep your head low. We need to figure out just what's going on out there. Gather supplies from nearby towns. You might want to make some better weapons before heading out. You already know how to make basic bows. And then our mission is to scavenge a nearby area. Somebody nearby is being chased by enemy creatures. Send a team to assist them. They may be willing to join you. That sounds like a very good idea. So we'll go to the world view. We will create a task force. And we're going to add shock into it. And then I forget, one of these was not a particularly good fighter. You're okay. You are terrible. So Blacko stays behind. Jonas and Shockin are in the task force. We then go to wherever that is and send a rescue party. These guys are called the Cavemen right now. I don't particularly like that name. So let's change it. It's going to be... what do I want to call it? We'll call the party Lionhearted. Oh, we can change the symbol too. The fist is probably a good one. Yeah, we'll go with the fist. Lionhearted task force, and eventually as you get more and more people you can set out multiple task forces to go and do whatever it is that they need to do. And now the flag is heading south, going over to where the rescue attempt is. Meanwhile, in our base, Blacko continues on with her work, doing research. Food supplies and water supplies will be used automatically by the party as they are out and about, but we may as well go ahead and speed time up. Although, what else do we want to research? What I'd really like to get is bow making, so that we can get some composite bows, because they are quite a bit stronger than the regular bows and they're not that much more expensive. So we'll wait until we've hit 60 research and then we'll go and make sure that gets done. Right, we have arrived. This is a rescue mission, which means that we need to find the person that we're trying to rescue and then release them. They'll be in a cage or something like that. And while we're trying to release them, enemies will attack us and try and stop us from releasing them. So the first thing we need to do is try and find any present guards, because as soon as we start the freeing process, then they will aggro us. So we want to clear the map, start releasing them, and then as we're releasing them, more enemies will spawn. There he is. Let's go and attack him. We're really not very good fighters. That should improve though. So we've killed the one imp that was garrisoning this place. I'm pretty sure it's just one because it's the start of the game. Now we need to go and find the person that we need to free. It should appear on the minimap as a nice big exclamation mark. Where are you? There you are. And you're a nice little corner as well. Alright. So, Shockin is our fighter, so we want you to be on guard duty, meaning that Jonas can go and start scavenging. Now, if we have to pull Jonas away to help Shockin out in the fight, then this releasing thing will get reset. So you generally want to try and keep this person here unmolested if at all possible. That's slowed down, which means we're about to get attacked, I think. Oh no, it does continue going. Here comes a single imp, but thanks to the barrel of fuel there, they can only approach us from one direction, which means they can't get through, and Shotgun can just hold that position. Now we could move back here if we had more people, and then we could have two people attacking the one. We've got Martha, let's select retreat, and then get the hell out of here. Run away, run away. And then once we're back home, we'll see what Martha can do for us, and we'll rename her, of course, too. Alright, so we got some more sulfur, killed two people, and we got Martha. And yes, we will have you return home, unless we want you to go and explore here. That's a little bit too many people for you to deal with. Basically, the further away these settlements are from your main base, the harder they will be to clear. So for some reason, because reasons, Martha immediately appears back in the base, but the other two do actually need to make their way back first. So Martha, what skills do you have? You are an engineer. You also have a research bonus. Exactly the same as Blacko. You're both scientists. That's actually okay, because that means that we can have one person always researching. At least one person always researching. So if we then go to your priorities, we'll make research your secondary thing. We'll have crafting as your first. And then the other things that you like to do. Something like that. So you're crafting. If they're not researching, then you're researching. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So Martha should head into town and start contributing to that as well. Meanwhile, on the world map, these guys are making their way back again. And then once they reappear, we will have all 4 people here. Meanwhile, Blacko has in fact leveled up. So we click on your skills and then we can see level 1. We have a various number of things here. We can increase your research speed even further, giving you a 165% research boost. Or we can increase your construction, or we can increase your mining. You know what, I think we're going to just double down and just have you as an absolutely amazing researcher. So not only are you a scientist, you're also research 1, which means you have a 165% research bonus. So your research goes phenomenally quickly. Speaking of research, we have in fact got enough now for bow making. Good. So, composite bows have now appeared. They require scraps, wood and arrows. Arrows require wood. We will need to queue some of those up, but we will need the workbench first of all. So Martha, if you come over here and start working on the workbench, that's what you're doing. And then these two have got back home. So we are now up to a population of 4. Martha. Martha, you need a new name. We will call you... What shall we call you? Who have I not used for a while? Kaj. I've not used you for a while. Can't quite reach. We'll just call you Kaj. Okay, cool. And of course, if you would like to see your own names appearing in this game, then I would strongly suggest you check out the Patreon, which you can find linked in the description below. That gives you priority to the naming systems here. Or if I run out of Patreons, which honestly is not going to be for a while, then put your name down in the comments and I will add you to a list. But the list is pretty long already with the Patreon, so if you would like to guarantee yourself a name, because basically if you haven't appeared before, I will put you in one of these games as a matter of priority. I have a checklist of when people have appeared in what game, so if you want to appear in one of these games, Patreon would be the best way to do it, and then after that I will add subscribers in the comments. But you know, if you definitely want to appear, check out Patreon if you feel that you're able to. Okay, so wood cutting is almost done. Each tree actually has a number of wood that they have there. We can also plant more trees, but this is a pretty well forested area, so I don't think we're going to need to do that for a while. Plus I just generally want to clear some area over here around kind of our central base. So I think this is just fine. We're now getting some stone. We still don't have that workbench. We don't have anyone who's particularly good at building stuff. They are kind of slow. Come on. Get the workbench up. Boom. Crafting. Let's get 3 of those. Let's also get 4 sets of armor produced. And then with that we're going to have to start scavenging some stuff. So let's get some scraps from this campsite down there. And that should be good to go. Once we have those arrows we can make a bow, and then we can shift around who's using the clubs and that type of thing. Anyway, for now I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. If you are enjoying this series, please do hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, then do consider subscribing. And if you have any tips or advice for me, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.